swinging a drive, right field and deep. Back goes Aquino. It's got a chance. Gone. Get out the tape measure. Long gone.
Fly the W!
Cubs fans, it's time to fly the W with Dustin Rhodes and Paul Crawley-Jean.
All right, Crawley, this is the Fly the W podcast, part of the Blue Wire Network. We are at episode 341. Some impressive Cubs pitching performances. Don't forget to listen, download, subscribe, most importantly, review the podcast. Follow on all the socials. I'm at Mullion Haw on X.
You can follow me at Crawley's Cubs on X, Blue Sky, and TikTok, and Crawley's Clubhouse on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Threads. You can email us at crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com. Dustin, as we are recording this right now, unfortunately, the Angels just put up a 3 spot to tie it up 4-4. But there's been some impressive pitching performances that we've seen the last couple of days, which is nice to see.
Well, some good and some not so good. I think there's a balance, right? I mean, the other thing, as we always say, and it's very important, and it took me a while to grasp this and believe in this idea that we don't know, other than, trying to throw pitches. We don't know exactly what they're throwing, what they're working on, what the game plan is, that kind of thing. But let's put it this way. I'm a little bit concerned until we talk to some experts. I'm a little bit concerned with what I've seen from Jameson Taillon. I'm a little bit concerned yesterday that Caleb Thielbar can't make it out of an inning without giving up 6 hits and 5 runs, something along those lines. I'm impressed that Cade Horton came in and went 1-2-3. So there's the yin and the yang of all of this, and it's very hard. Shota Imanaga. We're going to go through all this step by step by step, but just because we're talking about it right now, Shota Imanaga 3 or 4 ticks up on the gun compared to the end of last year. And then we hear, well, the gun is a little faster in Arizona than it is in Chicago. Well, okay, which one is it? How about the fact he didn't give up a home run? He was faster than he was, came out of it healthy, didn't walk anybody. To me, that was a good first time out in spring for Shota Imanaga, which is why, Crawley, I think we're calling this one. Some Cubs pitching performances are impressive.
Yeah, and when we're taking a look at this, like you said, you never get too high on the highs. You never get too low on the lows. Just because a guy has a bad outing doesn't mean anything. Just because a guy has a good outing. I mean, again, like you mentioned, they're working on things, and sometimes just things don't go your way, but you're just getting kind of warmed up here, Dustin. But this was the lineup that we saw here on the game on Tuesday. Michael Busch was in there, Matt Shaw, right? Michael Busch, Carson Kelly making his debut. So you got a couple debuts with Busch and Kelly. And so this was a fun one right here. The Cubs struck up early. Michael Busch picked up where he left off. The first pitch, he sees a double nearly into the berm, 414 feet, 103.2 miles per hour off the bat for that double. And he'll score on a Carson Kelly single. Cubs would add a pair at the bottom of the second with the bases loaded, no out. Busch was hit by a pitch, gets the RBI the hard way. Matt Shaw would add one more on a sac fly. The Cubs would add 3 more in the 5th. Carson Kelly hits his first solo home run of the spring. BJ Murray had a 2-run, 2-out double to add 2 more runs. And then, so when you look at this, Busch was 1 for 2 with the double and a hit by pitch. Carson Kelly 2 for 3 with an RBI single and a home run. And BJ Murray went 2 for 3 with a single and a 2-run double. But Dustin, like we talked about, the story of this game really was on the pitching side. Shota Imanaga got his first start. He went 2 innings, gave up 3 hits, no walks, no runs, 1 K. And Dustin, 2 of the hits weren't even really his fault when you look at it. There were some bad defense by Matt Shaw. He kind of let a ball play him instead of kind of charging in. And Chas McCormick broke the wrong way on a ball. If that wasn't for that, he would only have given up 1 hit, to be honest. But the thing that everybody is talking about, Dustin, is Shota's fastball. You mentioned it earlier. And here's what Craig Counsell had to say about Shota's outing.
I think his velocity is a little bit of a big deal. I mean, I think, if you kind of go back on the game logs of Shota, like that's kind of the high end of his velocity in any game log, spring training, regular season. So it's always that that's always encouraging. I think it's a sign that you're feeling really good. I think it's a sign your off season went really well. Feel good about adjustments you've made. So I thought I was very encouraged by Shota's appearance yesterday.
And I guess
Isn't it
why
kind
we
of
make a
funny
big-
though, Crowley? Hold on a second. It's kind of a little bit of a big deal. Is it little or is it big? I'm just confused. And I know Craig talks a lot, and maybe that's unfair. But I was like, wait, I'm confused. Is it a big deal? Is it a little deal? Which one is it, Craig?
I think it's a big deal because it was Bruce that kind of told us a few weeks ago that this was on February 19th that Shota is throwing his fastball harder, and that's a product of his hamstring being healthy. And Counsell believes that hamstring injury caused some bad mechanical issues while he was trying to compensate for the injury. So Dustin, when we left last season, we were like, well, we didn't know what happened to him. We didn't know if the league figured him out. We didn't know if he was tipping. This is a pretty understandable explanation right here, right? That the hamstring wasn't 100% healthy. He overcompensates. He starts getting into some bad mechanical issues. That's what can happen. And so I decided to take a look. This was Shota's last regular season game. It was a night game in September versus the Mets. And if you look at his fastball right here, it's hitting like 92, 91, 91, right? This was yesterday. He was pitching 93, 93, 94, 94. So it doesn't seem like it should make as much of a difference, but it is just literally those couple miles per hour are a big deal. And that can have a huge effect on everything.
Oh, no doubt about that. No doubt about that.
Now, speaking of hot guns, Daniel Palencia was hitting triple digits. He loaded the bases, but was able to get out of the jam. Jacob Webb, not so lucky. 2 outs. He issued back-to-back walks. And then former Cub Nick Castellanos nearly took him yard, a 2-run double. Dustin, you can't, young man, you cannot walk batters like that, especially with 2 outs. Hobie Milner made his second outing. It wasn't the bounce back we were exactly hoping for. He got the first 2 outs, but then gave up back-to-back singles before getting out of it. But one guy, Dustin, that's been pretty impressive is Gavin Hollowell. He's made some starts for the Cubs the last couple of years. He struck out the side. He's faced 6 batters this spring. He struck out all 6. The Padres had a 1 in the 8th off Jeff Brigham and a 2-run home in the 9th off Grant Kipp to make it interesting. But the Cubs won this one 6-5. So definitely, always fun to fly the W, right?
Anytime you can fly the W, Crowley, you fly the W and you enjoy it because the losses hurt worse than the wins. So when you can avoid the L's, you like to celebrate it a little bit.
Absolutely. Now, game 2, not as much celebration going on here. If you take a look at the lineup, we get a couple guys making their debuts, 3 guys, Horner, Ian Happ, and Dansby Swanson. So you got 3 guys making their spring debut. On the other side, some former Cubs starting for the Rockies, Willie Castro, Nicky Lopez, and Jose Quintana, right? In the first start of the spring, Jameson Taillon pitched an inning and 2/3, gave up 4 runs on 4 hits, 2 home runs, a walk, and a K versus the White Sox. How would he do against the Rockies? Not much better. He would give up a leadoff home run to Mickey Moniak, who had a great game, and another run would score after he gave up a single to Willie Castro and a double. Second inning, he would give up a leadoff home run to TJ Rumfeld to put the Rocks up 3-0. For Taillon, that's 7 runs on 8 hits, 1 walk, 2 Ks, and 4 home runs, and 3 2/3 innings. But Dustin, you were asking, okay, well, what we don't know everything that's going on. Here's what JMO had to say was going on.
Gotta stop giving up homers. They weren't like crazy, so we're okay. But I actually thought today felt a lot better. Just been working on a lot of stuff on the side, and I thought like the velo ticked up a little bit. I thought just the overall feeling of crispness ticked up. I thought the cutter shape was better. So some things to be really encouraged about, and as far as like the work that's going into it. Now it's kind of just mixing that with like the compete mode in game. Yeah, so I mean, I just like the cutter's been bigger, like depthier and like almost sweeper-ish. And the whole point is for it to be different. So we wanted to back that up a bit. Today it was like 87, 88 with a tighter shape. I thought the changeup stunk today, and that's just disappointing because it's been really good on my side work. So just kind of figuring out where my hand is on that in the game versus like where it's at in the bullpen and how to sync those up. Besides that, it was more just about like the delivery stuff, like getting into my backside and back foot a little better and holding tension on the mound.
Now, JMO is a professional, Dustin. He's not a rookie. We know what he can do, and I'm not worried. I have a feeling he'll be fine once the season starts. I'm not hitting any panic button just yet. And he talked about some of the things he was working on, and there was a one pitch that wasn't really working, and that was a changeup. And when he makes mistakes with the changeup, he has to pay for them, right?
You better believe it.
Now, that being said, JMO was asked about the WBC, and here's his plan moving forward.
Making one more start here on Monday, and then I fly out. So I kind of had the choice to pitch here or go throw an exhibition game with Canada, and chose to make one more here.
Okay, so he wants to stay here. He wants to work on some things. And so then he will be going with Team Canada. So, Dustin, next week is when we're going to see a lot of the World Baseball Classic players, including Jameson Taillon, leave to go play with their team. So after JMO was done pitching, Dustin, this is what we were looking for. This is what we were waiting for. The return of Cade Horton, right? He made his spring debut, and he looked fantastic. It was his first appearance September 23rd versus the Mets. Left the game. He had some sort of illness, and it ended up causing a right rib fracture, but he picked up right where he left off, setting down the first 5 batters he faced. He issued a walk and then struck out Zach Veen to end his day. 2 innings, no hits, 1 walk, and 2 Ks for Cade. Love to see him picking up, like I said, where he left off. It was a fun performance. And this is what Cade had to say about how he did.
Yeah, I felt really good. Just able to execute pitches. Honestly, I thought I was going to be a little more rusty than what I was. But yeah, just felt good. Felt good to be able to get in that competitive mode again and go out there and, face a different team. It's kind of what you miss in the off season is the competitive factor. So yeah, it was fun getting back out there.
He says all the right things, right? He says all the right things there. Sorry, I thought you were playing the cut. I didn't know you wanted me to respond first, so I apologize for that.
Oh, no,
and
no
the,
problem.
And the audience, I thought we were going to listen to him first. But yeah, that's exactly what you want to hear from a guy like that. And again, ease into it, right? Ease into it. No problem with that. We don't have to rush this at all. No.
No, he looked really good. You mentioned, though, a struggle for Caleb Thielbar. He came into the game, and it was a disaster.
Woof.
Every which way it was bad. Nicky Lopez started the inning off with a single to right and advanced to second on an error by Matt Shaw. Now, it was good to see PCA kind of talking to Shaw about, certain things, kind of taking him under his wing a little bit about helping him out there. But that was followed. That's going to happen. You're going to have guys make errors. But then after that, you got a double, single, and a home run. Thielbar gave up 5 runs on 6 hits. And just like that, the Cubs were down 9-0. But Dustin, crazy things happen in spring training. You never know what happens. The Cubs answered back with 6 of their own. So that was a combined, 11, 12 runs in 1 inning. Ian Happ drove into 2 with a RBI single, and Owen Miller hit a 2-run double. Cubs scored an additional run in the 6th to make it 9-7. And so now you got a ball game again. Phil Matten and Hunter Harvey, 2 offseason acquisitions, both pitched scoreless innings. But the wheels fell off in the 8th. Luke Little struggled with his control. With 1 out, he ended up he walked a batter, then had a balk, a double, a home run, a ground out, a walk, a single. His day was done. 2/3 of an inning, 5 runs on 3 hits, 2 walks, 1 homer, and no Ks. Luke knows he has to, control his it.
That's the big issue with him, right? It's the control thing. You cannot walk guys at this level. Cannot happen. Cannot happen.
They will make you pay, and pay they did. And the Cubs would lose this one 14-7, a rough outing for, a couple pitchers. There's really 3 pitches that struggled and 3 that did really well. So it kind of went a little bit back and forth on that right there. But, I like I said, seeing Cade Horton come back, you don't know what you're going to get in spring training. The Cubs are currently playing right now, and it seems so far like it's been a pretty good game so far. The interesting thing about this one, Dustin, about this game, is that every single 4th outfielder was playing today. Okay, so you had Chas McCormick, Dylan Carlson, and Justin Dean. All of those guys were in the outfield today. And so you're looking at this and you're saying to yourself, all right, well, let's see what happens. What can these guys do? And it's funny because in the first couple innings versus the Angels today, every single one of them had a double. So it's that competition that we talk about where these guys are fighting for their spot and everybody's trying to kind of one up each other. I love the competition in that. So if you look here, you can see right here, you got Bush, Rojas, Kelly, Carlson, and then it's Carlson, McCormick, and then Justin Dean playing center. So it was the first couple innings, they had 5 doubles, Dustin. They had the Jefferson Rojas also doubled. And for the second game in a row for Michael Bush, he was hit by a pitch with the bases loaded. So, I wonder just how nervous people are to kind of pitch to him. I think his reputation is starting to follow him. And twice he was hitting the leg on pitches. So I think that people were just a little bit nervous to have to pitch to him. Matthew Boyd, he looked okay his first outing. He didn't give up a lot of runs, but gave up a lot of hits, a lot of contact. Today, his second outing, he looked really good. And this is where, Dustin, we start going into the second outings of the season. He sat down all 9 batters he faced. He went 3 innings, gave up no hits, no walks, and struck out 3. In fact, it took until the 8th hitter for a ball to even leave the infield. So I thought that was pretty fun.
Oh, it was great. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then after Boyd, we saw the spring training debut of Jackson Wiggins. Wiggins is one of the top pitching prospects in the Cubs system. And you could see why, after giving up back-to-back doubles to Zach Neto and Mike Trout, he was able to limit the damage by getting a strikeout, a line out, and ended the inning with a strikeout. But, he pitched 1 inning, but then when he came into the second inning of work, that's where he ran into a little bit of trouble, unfortunately. He gave up a few runs, and that's why the Cubs now trail the Angels 5-4. He gave up
a little live spring training talk on the Fly the W podcast. I love it.
Yeah, he gave up 5 runs on 6 hits with 3 Ks. But again, not freaking out or anything, but this is what you get when you get Jackson Wiggins right here. If you take a look, you can see he's got the cutter, the 4-seamer, the changeup. Dustin, his changeup is 90.2 miles per hour, right? And he's going to throw a 4-seam fastball that's hitting 97, 98. So this is a kid, again, first spring training start, no big deal. You're going to get a little bumps there, and a couple of them were ground balls. It wasn't like he was getting crushed or anything like that, but he's a guy that, when we saw last year with Cade Horton come up and make a difference, Jackson Wiggins could be a potential difference maker for this team this year. So all in all, it's been some pretty good baseball. Like you said, it's bottom of the 6th. Cubs are trailing 5-4. And, we're kind of getting into kind of all the backups coming in. But to see Matt Boyd start out so good and to see Jackson Wiggins in a game, I have a lot of friends that are over in Tempe Diablo, which is one of my favorite spring training facilities. It's kind of interesting. It's just like got like the mountains in the background. It looks really cool, but exciting to see the Cubs playing there. And hopefully, like I said, 5-4, maybe they fly the W by the end of this when we're done talking.
Well, we can keep everybody up to date as we go through this thing. How about that, Crawley?
That sounds like a plan, but hey, we got some interesting audio coming up next.
This is the Fly the W podcast, proud to be part of the Blue Wire Network, episode 341, some impressive Cub pitching performances. Don't forget, listen, download, review, subscribe to our podcast, the Fly the W podcast. 5-star reviews, will take them. You can email us, as Crawley told you earlier, crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch us, as some of you may be, on the Crawley's Clubhouse YouTube page. Games are underway, plenty of talking, plenty of warm-ups. Let's go through a little bit of audio that we've collected, some of the best, if you will, Crawley.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there, because of spring training, everybody's kind of making the rounds. And so, obviously Alex Bregman, the big story this year as far as Jed Hoyer being able to pick up Bregman. And this is what Alex Bregman had to say regarding the decision of him picking the Cubs over the Red Sox.
How long was that process when they first contacted your agent, or, when you first started talking to the Cubs this offseason? Because a lot of people think it happens either in 2 days or it happens the entire offseason, and we have no idea what the process is like.
Yeah, they reached out right away, right when the season ended, and then kind of stayed in touch throughout November and December, and things started to heat up in January, and I was fortunate enough to get a deal done.
Everyone just assumed you were going back to the Red Sox. Like, it was like, oh, Bregman, he did great. They have money. They're a big market team. You're just going to go back to the Red Sox. I was surprised that you didn't go back to the Red Sox. Were you surprised? And you don't have, I would love for you to answer. You don't have to, though. Was the no trade thing a thing? Was that really a thing? Because that was like what everyone said was the reason why you ended up in Chicago and not Boston. And the owners of the Red Sox, well, Bregman wanted to be here, he'd be here, right? So was that a thing, or was that just not a thing?
Well, I think first and foremost, I loved the year in Boston. Loved playing for AC. Unbelievable friend and also a manager, and my teammates there were incredible. I don't know if I look back at the beginning of free agency, maybe a little surprised. But for me, this whole process, the Cubs really showed that they valued what was important to my wife, myself, our family, and I couldn't be more excited to be able to raise Knox and Bennett in Chicago, and I'm looking forward to it. I feel like beginning of the free agent process for me, it was really important to be in a place that I felt like I could win, and Chicago definitely checked that box, and I feel like this group already made a deep postseason run last year, and look forward to adding to it and doing my piece and helping out.
Now, Dustin, that was AJ Pierzynski, not the biggest Cub fan in the world. From his
foul
podcast,
territory. Yeah, foul territory podcast, just to give the proper credit where credit is due. They do a nice job. They're doing one of those, camp tours right now. So they were at Cubs camp recently, and there's going to be a bunch of audio from those guys. And AJ asked very direct questions. And as a former big league player who now also does a lot of the big games on Fox, players know who he is, and they respect him, and they're willing to give him answers maybe that he wouldn't necessarily give you or I, Crawley, as an example.
100%. And I think it was interesting because, how much did the Cubs go out of their way to show that he was wanted? And that makes a difference, Dustin. It makes a difference for some players, as far as, do you really want my services or not? And I have a feeling that
almost like back in the college recruiting days, right, Crawley? Like they want to be wined and dined, if you will. They want to be, brought to a Bulls game in this case, or brought to a Bears game, and they want their kid to get a jersey and have a couple minutes with Benny the Bull or something like that. And it all goes a long way.
It really does. And again, when all of a sudden Red Sox are playing coy, like, well, maybe, we can look other directions. I think they're kind of, then all of a sudden it opens you up to thinking, okay.
Yep, it ticks a guy off depending on their ego or just, how sensitive they are or aren't.
Right. And so that opens up the possibility. And now all of a sudden he starts taking a look. And you know what, Dustin? I know that this is tough because Kyle Tucker's gone and Alex Bregman's here. And, the two are always going to be compared with each other. That's just natural. But I sometimes feel like for people, especially that have young kids, like families, I think like being in Chicago, to be able to play more day games than you normally do in other cities, other teams, to be able to kind of, I see a lot of times the players with their families on the field. You've seen Knox, who is his eldest son, in a Cubs uniform. I've seen him out in Mesa already, playing with his dad. I feel like it's just kind of like a good family vibe, where if you have a young family, it'd be a lot of fun to play in Chicago. And we've talked about this before, happy wife, happy life, right? You're going to sit there and you're going to look at those things, and it's going to impact where you're going to sign. So there was that. And then AJ also asked about, that reputation. And we've heard it plenty about making his teammates better.
Everything that people talked about this offseason, anybody that's ever played with you, they're like, Breggy's superpower is he makes other players better, especially younger players, when you talk about the rookies that they had up there in Boston. So do you feel like you can still do that here with more of a veteran team and a few younger guys mixed in?
Well, I feel like it's going to be a little bit different, obviously, being around a bunch of guys that have been in the league for a long time. And I think it's just baseball conversations. I feel like the best teams I've been on have communicated the best with one another. They've talked the game. They've helped each other improve at the game, whether it's hitting, defense, running the bases, whatever it may be. I feel like teams that communicate, teams that prepare to go out there and execute are the best teams that I've been on. And I think those conversations are already starting here in camp, and just attention to detail and focus on getting a little bit better, 1% better. And I feel like all these guys' heads are in the right spot, and I'm excited to be a part of this group. And it'll be a little different, but it'll be good.
What I really love about him is that idea of baseball conversations and talking ball. And that's what you hear the most about Bregman, is that he's always thinking the game, talking about the game, engaging his teammates. Yes. Is it going to be better to have younger players being able to learn from him? Yes, but it doesn't mean like veteran players can't kind of do that, and just creating a culture of guys that want to play baseball and are talking about how to get better together, like not necessarily needing the coaching staff to tell them everything, kind of as the players coming together and saying, talking about what a pitcher throws, little things. There's always one guy, in a clubhouse that can, pick up tells that a pitcher has. Those are the type of things that I think Alex Bregman brings, and kind of that love and desire of baseball, and wanting to always be talking about baseball and thinking about it. I think it's what really makes a difference for him. And I hope that a lot of the other players, I'm going to say, honestly, I don't know Kyle Tucker. I don't want to say anything, I don't know him personally, but it didn't seem to me like he was that type of guy. You know what I mean?
Well, and everywhere Kyle Tucker was not that kind of guy. And everywhere that Bregman goes, they win, right? I mean, he's like in the playoffs every year.
Now, one last piece of audio. This is from MLB Network, and I thought it was interesting, Dustin, because on the last episode, you and I were kind of airing our frustrations about not being able to watch spring training games. Here's what Bregman said about signing with the Cubs and how he was influenced by the Cubs when he was younger.
The night that you signed was like maybe the best night in Chicago sports in a long, long time. Were you watching that game?
Yeah, well, Jed called and he said we're down a few scores at half, so let's get everybody fired up, and it worked.
You've been an AL guy. Now this is your home. How cool is that going to be? Just that's your home field.
No, it's going to be crazy. Obviously, growing up in New Mexico, watching WGN, watching the Cubs game was super cool, and been fortunate enough to play for some really good franchises, and to be able to continue that at Wrigley Field and be able to raise my kids in Chicago, coming to Cubs games all the time. It's going to be incredible.
So, Dustin, that's the second big free agent. If you remember, the last big free agent that the Cubs signed was Dansby Swanson, and he talked about how his grandpa used to watch WGN, and now you got Bregman talking about it. Let me say first and foremost, it was WGN that wanted to get out of as many Cubs games as they used to sign. It was not the Cubs leaving, which a lot of people sometimes mistake it for. But that being said, that ability for the Superstation and the amount that it influenced fans and future players all over the United States is just there's, the Braves had Turner Network, but they didn't have Harry Carey. Right. And so just the way that it spread Cub fandom across this country for people in New Mexico or Utah or Wyoming that didn't have a team to cheer for. It's to me, it's just phenomenal. And it just kind of makes me sad to think about, like, in the future free agents aren't going to have that same kind of, oh, we watched the Cubs on WGN when we were little, because they're not going to have that.
No, not going to have it. No, that's a great point. And it was, Crowley, I would love you, because you are a guy who remembers these things, or I think you'd be up for this challenge. Can we pick a better, like, we have to look back at some of like the top 10 Cubs moments. And then we need to see, like, since you and I have been born, we're roughly the same age since we've been born. And then we need to see if they were on a Saturday. It doesn't even have to be at night, but were they on a Saturday? And then we've got to see if, like, the White Sox did something crazy, or if it coincided with the Bulls or the Blackhawks, like winning the conference or winning, the championship, because I can't remember a better Saturday night than Alex Bregman signing and the Cubs coming from behind and scoring 20 plus points in the fourth quarter to beat the Packers in a playoff game. I mean, and all that was Bregman signed. Bregman didn't even get a hit, right? All he did was put pen to paper or, checked a box and signed it, however you e-sign these days. It might not even have been really pen to paper. And I'm telling you, Crawley, I walked into an establishment. Everybody was down. Everybody was pissed off. I told them about the Bregman thing. They said, shut the blank up. Everybody starts looking at their phones, and all of a sudden, the Bears start making the comeback, and the party was on.
Yeah, it really did bring the positive vibes. And I feel like you have such a rounded sports experience compared to me. Sometimes I get tunnel vision, but I was watching a Bears game. I was at Club 400 that night, and it was definitely fun to get the Bregman news. And then almost instantaneously, the Bears just start moving and coming back against the Packers. It definitely was a fun night. And he's an interesting guy to listen to. Dustin, another interesting guy to listen to, especially because of his youth and his honesty, is PCA. I don't know if you saw, he's the cover boy of Chicago Magazine. That was a big deal.
Oh, this caused quite the stir.
Yes. But he was asked the other day about the possibility of an extension and, what he would be, what he would be interested in.
Any extension conversations this spring training? Anything there so far this spring? Do you think there could be conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I do. What I just appreciate about our front office is like they know what I'm here to do. And sorry, this thing's popping out of my ear. They know what I'm here to do. Like, it hasn't been such a huge topic of conversation to distract from like the everyday. I'm only here for so long before I go play in Houston and this and that. So like, yes, there will be talks. There have been talks, but at the same time, like, we're not in really any rush to do anything, and I'd like to keep it that way just because I'm going to go out and play regardless and enjoy myself while I do. So there's bigger fish to fry right now, I think, than getting me paid. I want to go focus on WBC and get to know those guys and then really like dive into this team. I've gotten 3 years now with a pretty similar group of guys, and that's been really special to me because I just feel more comfortable as we go. So we got too much stuff, too much good stuff going around out here that I don't really need to focus on anything else.
All right. I just like his honesty about it. And nobody has to make a move too quick just yet. And I think they both know that.
No, there's no rush. I mean, obviously, Pete Crow Armstrong bet on himself, right? He got a somewhere between $70 and $80 million offer, according to reports, and he turned that down, bet on himself. And if I were him, I would not rush into anything unless, we're into like 125 plus million or something like that.
Right. It's a risk for everybody. If the Cubs give him big money right now and he's not a complete player 100% just yet, you're going to be paying a lot of money for a really, really good defensive player, but nobody liked that when it was Jason Hayward, right?
No.
If you sit there and if all of a sudden PCA jumps to that next level and he becomes a superstar, 70 million over say 7 years, it's really not that much money when we talk about
cheap from baseball standards, right? Absolutely.
Right. So I think that both of them know Pete's going to be around here for a few more years till 2030 before he can hit the free agency market. So let's see what happens. And again, from the Cubs perspective, can he put together a complete season? If you remember, obviously when he came up, he kind of didn't have a lot of at-bats. His first full season, he struggled the first half. Second half, he kind of put it together. Last season, you saw that the first half was all-star caliber. Second half, not so much. So here's what he had to say about having a complete season.
What adjustments do you have to make as a player to stay strong the whole season?
Yeah, well, I mean, the swing, we know the swing plays. Like, we saw that in the first half. If I'm swinging at the right stuff, the swing is going to work. So it wasn't really swing focused this year. I obviously, I think consistency is a nice way to approach the next year, or at least search for some of that. And the setup in the box was like really the thing that I kind of harped on, where like I was just trying to get in the box the exact same way every time, kind of create a routine for myself. So I know what I'm doing every time I get in the box, so I can slow myself down when it is the tough second half that I had last year, whatever happens. But then Carlos Santana was cool at the end of the year, and he was like, "Hey, you're not working out to hit homers and for the back of the baseball card stuff." He was like, "I work out and I put my focus on just being healthy for 162. Like that's the goal of my off season. So like whatever durability, endurance like you want to build, like approach it that way." And it's kind of what I did. Like I had shoulder surgery in 21, and I'm like this off season was the first time I felt like I gained some strength back there. So it was really like shoulder strength, shoulder mobility, and hip mobility, just things that like set my body up to feel good when the swing's not feeling good, and all that stuff. And then definitely some approach stuff, but that's really like kicked into gears.
When I listened to him, Dustin, it really is interesting because he's talking about, first off, he mentioned Carlos Santana, and that's going to be one of those guys that's, if you're on Twitter, daily random Cub, like we're going to forget in like 5 years that Carlos Santana, had a cup of coffee with the Cubs. But I feel like Pete, more than most players, really loves to absorb from guys, from the veterans, like he did with Justin Turner, like he did with Carlos Santana, and like I already hear he's doing with Alex Bregman. He did have that shoulder injury. So, he's talking about being stronger this time around. It's that idea of having a good first year because the splits were so different. First half, second half, 265 versus 216 average, first versus second half. When you start talking about the home runs, 25 versus 8, RBI, 71 versus 24. I mean, there was a clear difference between the first and the second half. So the hope is that he can put it all together. Now, Dustin, I'm going to tell you, I've always loved PCA. I loved him when he was coming up in the minors, but I love him even more because of this one right here. And this is what he said in that Chicago magazine that you and I were just talking about. This is quote, "Cub fans give a shit. They aren't just baseball fans who go to the game like Dodgers fans to take pictures. They are paying attention," which of course made Dodger Nation very, and Pete is a California boy. He's a California guy, so it's not like he hasn't been to Dodgers games.
Oh, so no, this is him going after his hometown team. I mean, come on.
All right, here's what he had to say.
I grew up going to Dodgers games when they weren't always good, when they had like Manny Wood pop up. But it's like they go in phases, and I remember like, all fans fight and stuff, but like putting the Giants fan in the coma, like that stuck with me as a kid. Like just little things, and sitting in the stands, just nasty stuff goes on. I didn't always experience that at other ballparks. But like I said, that has nothing to do with who's actually on the field for them. I love playing against them, and I just love what they're doing right now because they're creating a dynasty. But I want to take them down too.
It's interesting because I feel the same way as PCA. I go to a lot of games. I have not been to Dodger Stadium. I've been to a lot of ballparks. I've been to at least 15, 16 ballparks. I've been to, I can't even tell you how many games, Dustin, in my lifetime. And I would easily put the Dodgers fans as some of the worst fans that I've encountered.
Really?
Yeah. A good friend of mine, he went to the NLCS in 2016, and his girlfriend at the time, now wife, got punched in the eye when he was going to the bathroom and getting a beer. You know the story about Brian Stowe. And look, there's fights at every baseball stadium. There's issues. I wish it didn't happen, but it just seems to be like there's like when there's a Twitter site, baseball fights and all this stuff. Like it always seems to be Dodgers fans that are looking to go there to get in a fight. It's like, settled. And I've just had bad experiences. I remember 2017 getting into it because it was the game. I want to say it was game 5. I think it was, game 5. And the Dodgers were about to win the NLCS at Wrigley. And they were screaming and yelling at like the older like ushers at Wrigley because they wanted to all go down. And the ushers were trying to prevent people from going down there before the game ended. And they're just really rude and disrespectful and looking for fights. So, I am 100% with PCA on this one. Like I said, I've gotten along with Phillies fans. I've gotten along with Cardinals fans. I've gotten along with a lot of fans. Dodgers fans, every time I go to a Dodgers game, even White Sox fans, it's, I don't know.
Let's not get crazy.
He mentioned the Brian Stowe. That was the Giants fan that got beat up by the Dodgers fans in a parking lot. I mean, within like inches of his life. So,
That's not
Interesting that Pete
obvious.
brought that up. Now, Dustin, one more thing I kind of wanted to talk about here, one more piece of audio. Dansby Swanson was asked about hitting at Wrigley Field. Here's what Dansby had to
Wrigley
say.
used to be known as like a full hitter's park, right?
Yeah.
Has it changed?
Oh yeah.
It's just
Big
the
time.
wind blows in more.
Yeah.
Is it global warming? Is it global cooling?
I don't know what it is, but I'm not here for it right now, man. It is. Last year, it felt like it's like 70% of the days were hurting, and then of the other 30%, it felt like 20 of it was like crosswind, so it wasn't really helping. Either there was a couple days, and I'm sure like the game against Seattle where Cal Raleigh, if he could bunt a home run, I'm pretty sure that. There's been a few days where obviously the ball will fly. It seems like the days that the ball is going to fly the most, you hit the ball on the ground, and the days where it's blowing in, you hit your best bullets. But it presents its own unique challenges, and I think that that's something that you have to get used to and understand how to. You don't want to necessarily like change things because you don't want to change a swing to help you for a few days, and then you go on a long road trip, and then you've kind of lost yourself. So for me, I think just really getting back to a point where the barrel is showing up where it's supposed to show up to be able to hit the ball hard, whether it's in the air, on the ground, on a line, and just consistently, being in a good spot to hit. It sounds simple, but sometimes we can get away from repeating just the simple things over and over and over again, and that's what I've gotten back to.
All right. It's going to be curious to see what Dansby does offensively this year, but I decided to do some research, Dustin. I did some homework, and I wanted to see what Wrigley Field has been like since Dansby Swanson has been a Cub. So 2023 is his first season at Wrigley. Wrigley Field was one of the most hitter-friendly ballparks, 9th out of all stadiums in 2023 as far as hitter-friendly ballparks. 2024, his second year, Wrigley Field was the second hardest park to hit in, 29th out of all 30 teams. So as far as offense is concerned, Wrigley 29th. And then last year, slightly better. If you take a look here, Wrigley at this point was number 21 out of 30. So not 29, but definitely not in the top 10 like it was Dansby's first year. So it is tricky, and learning how to play and not let it affect you is kind of one of the biggest things. Looking at last season, the wind blew in 48 times, and the Cubs record was 30-18. The wind blew out 19 times, and the Cubs record was 12-7. And there was a crosswind 11 times, and the Cubs record was 7-4. So, it isn't, I think people over exaggerate because there are certain games in Wrigley lore, the Phillies versus the Cubs, 23-22. There are those games where all of a sudden that wind is howling out. And again, obviously he was joking about Cal Raleigh bunting for a home run, but there are times where it feels like there are those, it happens once or twice a year where that wind is just howling out. But even then, that doesn't mean you're going to be hitting like 23 runs, 22 runs. It happens sometimes, other times it doesn't. But, I thought it was some really interesting audio from all of these guys. And I loved the team last year. And with Alex Bregman, I feel like I love him even more. I thought that Tucker was kind of boring and wasn't really interesting to listen to talk baseball. I think Alex Bregman is phenomenal. And I think, having him, Swanson, PCA, Michael Bush, Nico, these guys, I really like this clubhouse. I'm looking forward to when the games actually start counting.
You are listening to the Fly the W podcast, proud to be part of the Blue Wire Network. This is episode 341, some impressive Cubs pitching performances. We reviewed those earlier. Don't forget to download, review, listen, subscribe, 5-star reviews. We'll take one of those. And you can email us, crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com. Don't forget you can watch us on Crawley's Clubhouse YouTube page, injury news, roster moves, and the like. Not just with the Cubs, but around the league as well.
Yeah, Dustin, I'm excited because we have a new bit of audio for the Fly the W podcast, courtesy of the skipper, right? Here we go. Ready?
We got some injury updates here. Let's see.
I'm keeping that forever. We do have some injury updates. Dustin, we talked about, forgetting Carlos Santana was ever on the team. Are we going to ever remember this guy? Tyler Austin This is what the skipper had to say was going wrong with Tyler Austin.
Start with Tyler Austin. Tyler had surgery yesterday. Right patellar tendon debridement. So essentially, he had come into camp and there was some history of knee issues and it just didn't respond well early, and so surgery was necessary. Then it'll keep him out months.
Months, plural. Now, Dustin, the Cubs signed him to a 1-year, $1.25 million contract. Not going to break the bank, but it was believed that he was going to be somebody that could really be helpful, taking a couple, at bats against some tough lefties. That doesn't seem like it's going to be an option. And so now, you have to ask yourself, what are the other options that could take that to be first base, to face some of those tough lefties as a good right-handed bat? And obviously Mo Baller, Moises Ballesteros is in camp. He's played some first base, but he's not necessarily the world's tallest guy. And so he doesn't have this big wingspan that we've come to know for some of our first basemen. Miguel Amaya is going to take some reps at first. We don't know how, I'm not thrilled with that idea, Dustin. I love Amaya. I just, with his injury history, sometimes I don't mind him getting a day off here or there. I mean, I guess it's not the biggest, I don't know. I don't know if I'd want him standing 9 innings and then, catching the next day, so on and so forth. Right.
Right. That's not ideal. No.
Matt Shaw obviously is someone that, super utility guy, but again, I mean, this is a lot to put on a kid's plate. We've seen him struggle defensively and right, you got him in third, you've had him play second and short. Now you want him to play first. I mean, how many gloves is this kid going to have in his locker? I mean, it's not ideal. One name that keeps coming up is Jonathan Long, but there is a problem. Here's Skipper Craig.
Johnny Long, lastly, things are going a little more slowly probably on the recovery than we'd all like. So we're going to have to make a decision on he has a WBC decision to make.
Dustin, that decision for Johnny Long, as he will now be forever known, has been made. And that decision is he is not going to play for Chinese Taipei.
Well, it doesn't sound like the skipper wanted him to, that's for sure.
He had to make a decision, and I think it's the right one. And
sounds like it was made for him.
Maybe he put it though is you've got to look at it like what's the best long-term solution. Obviously, in the short term, I want to go, but we're more inclined to push through something that we shouldn't push through with such strict timelines. So he knows that, you can't rush this. Let's make sure the arm is in good shape. And right now, Dustin, if he can get healthy. Now, here's the thing about Jonathan Long. He was last year's minor league player of the year. He got the Buck O'Neil Award for that. Okay. And so he got a left elbow sprain after colliding with Mark Canha on Saturday, trying to make a catch that was a little bit offline. And so he's slowly introduced more activity over the past few days. But if he was going to play the WBC, Dustin, he'd have to be on a plane right now. And so that's the issue, is you just don't have time. And here's the thing that I've been watching, Dustin, with WBC. If you're Manny Machado, it doesn't matter if you go play the WBC or not, right? When you come back, third base is yours and you're batting second or third, right? Like Manny Machado is not having to worry about that. But with a guy about Jonathan Long, sometimes opportunities present themselves. Okay. And so Tyler Austin was the backup first baseman, which meant there really wasn't a role for Jonathan Long on this team this year.
All right. I brought up Jonathan Long this morning on the score. I wish I would have known Johnny Long before I brought up, known it that way. That's much more fun to say.
Yeah, Johnny Long. And so sometimes you get this opportunity, the famous Wally Pipp story, right? With Lou Gehrig. Guy takes a day off and he never gets his job back. You sit there and you have these opportunities. And for Jonathan Long, if he can get healthy and all of a sudden he starts to turn some heads in spring training and then he gets off to a roaring start in Iowa, there's going to be at bats to be had for Jonathan Long, or Johnny Long, as we shall now forever know him, moving forward. But I think, like I said, it's the right decision. You're with your trainers. You're not rushing. You're not going to make the situation worse. So that's the right decision. It's just unfortunate he didn't get a chance, because I do think it's a good experience, especially for younger players. And for me, Dustin, especially like, again, Owen Casey had that experience before for Team Canada. Like for younger players that aren't going to make the big league roster, then, it's a great, great experience. And again, Johnny Long probably wouldn't make the big league roster much at all this year if Tyler Austin was healthy. Now that's not the case. Now he has an opportunity. One more injury, Dustin, and it's your guy here. Here we go, Jordan Wicks.
Jordan Wicks is dealing with some left forearm inflammation. We've done an MRI. There's no UCL concerns. We're just kind of trying to get to the exact source of the pain or the discomfort. But so he has not thrown for the last 5 days, responding well, probably in terms of like length of time down. We're probably still looking just at days down, not weeks, if that can put some context to length. Hope to have him a little more recovery time and then begin throwing shortly.
All right, that sounded not too bad, right? Forearm, they looked, no UCL, which is the big thing when you hear about the forearm. But, that's he said days, not weeks, days. So that's good. But Dustin, that's why you get the depth of pitching that Jed and Carter are constantly talking about. You are in no rush to get this guy back. Take your time, work him back there. Don't get any further injury. The Cubs will be fine without Jordan Wicks in Chicago. What is it, March 27th?
Mm-hmm.
30 days from today, 30 days till opening day. So, they'll be fine without him. Just take it easy and go ahead and let him work his way through it. Some other MLB news: former White Sox Chris Sale and the Atlanta Braves are in agreement for 1 year, $27 million extension. That includes a club option for $30 million in 2028. He's 36 and was set to hit free agency after the season, but will remain in Atlanta. Dustin, I still can't believe this guy's still going.
He's still going, and AJ, his former backstop, made a little wave over the week and saying that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, no questions asked, no doubt about it. I don't know if he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but I don't know about first ballot.
Yeah, first ballot's really, really tough, and the idea of him going in as a White Sox, I mean, it's unless they mention something about him cutting up uniforms, I think he goes in as a Red Sox, to be honest with you. But
yep. Mm-hmm. That's where he won his World Series, right? Yep.
Right. But he's had a lot of injuries, but I would say he's borderline first ballot Hall of Famer. That's the way
he's a Hall of Famer, but not the first ballot in my opinion.
I would say borderline first ballot. It's not a absolute slam dunk. And here's why I say that, Dustin. And this is why I sometimes get irritated about Hall of Fame voting. Is there are guys that are going to be like, well, nope, he wasn't one of the greatest, so I'm not going to vote him this time, but I'll vote him the second time. Where I understand your argument is, if you're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer. And if everybody thought that, then that'd be fine. But there's a lot of writers that are just going to sit there and not put him on the ballot for no other reason other than they don't think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Well, I agree. I agree that there is something special about first ballot. I agree with that. But I also think you should get two chances. If you don't get in on the second chance, you're done.
And I will disagree with that, because I always feel that people learn, right? And
you don't get better in retirement, Crowley. You don't get better in retirement in baseball.
You don't, but I think baseball fans become wiser and they learn more. And again, looking and comparing at things. And again, humans make mistakes. The writers didn't like Ron Santo. That's just a fact. The writers didn't like Jeff Kent. That's a fact. And
I can't blame them on that one.
Right. I don't either. And he was pretty funny talking about Alex Rodriguez. I'll tell you that on the air.
Kind of a pud.
No doubt about it, Dustin, but that doesn't have anything to do with whether he was a Hall of Famer.
And I agree with you there as well. I do. I absolutely
So either way,
maybe this is a topic we revisit during the All-Star break.
we've been kind of been paying attention to the Athletics top 50 free agents.
Yes.
And Dustin, one more is off the list. Mad Max Scherzer. Maybe he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't know. He was the Athletics number 41 free agent. He signs a 1 year, $3 million deal, but the deal includes $10 million in possible incentives that start at 65 innings pitch, and he has full no trade protections. So Mad Max is another guy that, just what an incredible career he's had. and like Justin Verlander, just he's going to keep going. But that puts us now to our final 3 from the top 50: Michael Kopech, Zach Littell, Lucas Giolito. So Kopech's number 50, Zach Littell 37, Giolito 30. Again, now we're now in the
I can't believe Michael Kopech is sitting out there. I mean, I'm just, unless there's some injury that I don't realize. I haven't done a bunch of reading on that, but I'm just surprised at this stage Michael Kopech's already sitting on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I don't know if he's asking for too much money or what the issue is, but you're running out of, like I said, I never like when pitchers aren't in camp, and every day that goes by that they're not throwing with the team under the supervision of their pitching infrastructure, not facing batters, all that stuff, it puts them back. I just think it puts them back, and it just is if it's just a mess. So again, to think that Giolito's just sitting there. I mean, Giolito wants big money. We know that.
He wants big.
Wants a long-term deal. Yeah, the fact that no one would take a flyer on Michael Kopech just yet, we'll see. Dustin, we got a couple games of note to be looking at here. On Friday, the Cubs play the Guardians. Edward Cabrera to make his first start. We know that there's no Chicago media as far as marquee or the score, but what you can do a lot of times if you go to the MLB app, today I was listening to the Angels broadcast, so you can.
I'm just confused about this whole thing, though. I know you talked about it briefly in the first segment of the podcast, Carly, but I don't get why neither one, and then they'll both do games. It's like, come on, figure this out together.
It doesn't make any sense. Saturday, the Cubs are going to take on the Dodgers. That will be on MLB Game Day on the app, the radio. I'm not sure on the TV. The Dodgers will be broadcasting it on Sportsnet LA. So if you have MLB TV, you could probably watch it through there, and you can listen to it on your laptop or mobile phone. They will have the audio feed, but it's the Dodgers audio feed. And then Sunday and Monday, we get marquee back. Sunday versus the White Sox, and Monday versus the Reds on marquee. I think the Cubs are definitely making a push that Sundays on marquee are a thing. And so I saw some advertisements for that. So they were on marquee last Sunday. They're going to be on marquee this Sunday. So it looks like every Sunday the Cubs are going to be on marquee for spring training.
Very good. I know next week, Friday and Saturday, I want to say off the top of my head, the Cubs will be back over on 104.3 on the FM side, and that will be also, Crawley, the debut of Pat Hughes.
Well, that is going to be
on the FM dial.
Okay, that is exciting. I love when Pat Hughes comes back. I'm just that'll be looking at the score March 7th and March 8th.
Okay, 7th and 8th. Okay, so it's
March 7th and March 8th.
Saturday and Sunday, not Friday and Saturday. Okay.
I will be there Saturday, March 7th.
Very nice.
I'm very excited, and I do want to say a quick thank you to a couple people, Rich Biesterfeld, Kathy Weedley, Rich, and especially Steve Scher. My parents were out in Arizona. They were there. My dad, for the first time in 10 years, was back out in Mesa, and they got to see Coom Dog. They got to meet Jackson Wiggins. They got to see a lot of players. So, spring training's in full swing, and I just appreciate those guys and looking very forward to getting out to Mesa and having some fun.
Absolutely. Nothing like it. I've been a long time for me as well. Would love to get back out there. All right, Crawley, that is a wrap. That's it for now, but we'll have more to come. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe, Fly the W podcast, email us your thoughts, questions, Crawley's Clubhouse, gmail.com. Continue to watch us by subscribing to the Crawley's Clubhouse YouTube channel.
And just to give you an update, it is still 5-4, bottom of the 8th. The Cubs have 3 outs to get back in here. Go Cubs!
It's all over.